to be the performer, to be the ideal performer. Some kind of a self-image that my worth is dependent on my performance or something like that. I think it's a biggie. When I fail and I say, what is happening? I'm doing so much and this is so great and I'm really doing my best and I don't know, I don't understand and and I actually, it's just happening. Stop getting so. But the performer says there must be a reason, the why again. Why is this happening? And why is it happening to me? And so giving yourself a hell of a lot of importance. Things that seem to work really well professionally, and I had the feeling I had the foot on the gas and I couldn't lift the foot anymore. And I was just, and I was feeling my whole system and my nervous system just saying it's too much, but I could not lift the foot off the gas. And I think my inner circuits just...
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Awareness Club podcast. In the episode today, my guest was having a very interesting life. He has a background with parents that are coming from all over Europe. He was born in Buenos Aires and then going to Germany and then France and studying also multiple things, medicine, architecture, being a lawyer, and then discovering what the world is in different traditions, through different practices, through different rituals and techniques, and arriving today to build a beautiful life, to be in contribution and in service of this society, and you will discover how. I'm having with me Michel Domberger.
Hello Bogdan, nice to be here.
It is such a pleasure to have you here, and it was such a pleasure to discover you and your life. And I would like to start today by understanding your background. What were the environment or circumstances in which you were born?
So I was born in Buenos Aires many years ago in the 60s, in the German hospital, actually. And my parents met there. They were not Argentinian, neither of them, but they became and decided they want to make their life there. And then at the age, so actually, which was interesting is I was also raised by an American Indian nanny for the first years of my life. So there was some kind of an imprint. And at the age of 4, there was a huge economical crisis in Argentina, like regularly. And my parents decided that they would move to Germany because they needed to make a living, a more stable living. And at that time, my father's father was in Germany, so they moved to Germany.
And your family is coming from various cultures and backgrounds.
Yes, they do. My mother had a French father and a Romanian-born grandmother who met each other in Geneva. We got married there and lived there. And my father was born in Poland when he was a child, in a part which is Ukraine today. And so they had very different backgrounds.
How does this diversity and complexity impacted your life as a child and your understanding of how the world works?
Well, as a child, I didn't really fully understand what was going on. It was complex. I had different languages in my home. My father was speaking Spanish to me, and my mother was speaking French to me. Then when we moved to Germany, my father switched to German. My father was speaking Polish to his father when he was meeting. It was complex. I didn't really understand exactly where we were from, what was the tradition, what do we belong to. And it took me quite a lot of years to be at peace with the topic of different cultures, different religions, different country traditions. Yeah.
And how is with the aspect of belonging? Because when you have such a diverse imprint, you relate in some aspects more with one of them and more with others in another chapter. And how was your transition into integrating and nourishing yourself?
Was a big topic indeed, and I will start with something which happened quite late in my life, around the 50s. I knew then a Swiss shaman, And he said, it's really important to go and visit the place you were born. I said, okay, interesting. I've never been to Argentina since I left it when I was 4. So with my father, we went to Argentina. And the minute I landed and the door opened, I kind of felt, this is home. Wow. I was levitating for 10 days in Argentina. I was like a fish that joined, the current in the sea with the right temperature, and exactly the composition of the water was home. And when I left Argentina, it was done. I never again wondered, where am I from? This was home, even though I hadn't lived there for 50 years. So it gives me the shivers actually when I'm still saying it. So this is about knowing where you come from. And about cultures, I think the fact that there were so many differences in the family, it made me search, what is my culture? And where do I belong to? And it really brought me to a long search to come to the point that we're one family, that it's one human family. Whatever we talk and whatever the symbols are, whatever the colors are, we're one family and we're on one big cruise together. And I think that's my sense of belonging today.
When did it all start putting question of how the world works and how do I discover this environment in which I am living?
It started young because you see, I was coming from a Jewish family, not religious, so except for 1 or 2 holidays a year, there was no practice, there was no tradition. I was living in Germany. I had my friends where everything but, there were very few Jews around me because I was not in a Jewish school, I was in a French school. So we had Tunisian Muslims and we had Lebanese Armenian and German Protestant and French Catholics. And so we had and everything. So I kind of was part of a family of the world. I was then once in a while going to some churches or temples, and I was thinking, oh, really interesting. They're making a mudra, which I then later knew it's a mudra, like putting the hands together. Oh, I like it. It's nice. Why don't they do it in synagogue? So I was kind of wondering, how does the world work? Why do they use this story and here they use that story? Why is there Christmas and why is there not Christmas? And it really started as a small kid to understand that there are many traditions and there are many things I like here or I dislike there. So do I have to pick? Am I obliged to stay within a frame? And this created really the quest of trying to understand where's the truth maybe, or what is the right choice, or do I have a choice? That was really the setting. It started 5, 6, 7 years old, and it was not totally rational, but yeah.
And this is actually an opportunity because why we say with the kids is to make them curious.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they practice or what activities they do, but just to encourage them to have the question, why, what, to be curious about our universe. And this is what the world was triggering you to discover meaning. Yeah. And I find that, because I know a bit of your story, I find that your complex life was rooted there. Yeah. And the desire to put the pieces together and to understand where everything overposes and how everything is one language.
Yeah, common language is really a topic, and particularly when you have a lot of languages. And common language, well, I found it took. If I make a shortcut, I would say there's one common language, which is vibration. It's music. It's the body. It's there are really things. It's emotion as is, not even explained. There's really one universal expression of life, and I really looked into different ventures to understand that. But rhythm, for instance, is an extraordinary language. I mean, we can be of 20 different backgrounds, and we start beating a drum, and we all tune in. Wow! So it touches something which is way beyond the culture. Touching somebody, wow, way beyond the cultures, just amazing. So there are universal languages, and it's so good to find that common language. For me, it's soothing to come back. Or dealing with elements. I discovered shamanism at some point, American Indian shamanism, through the Swiss shaman who went to America, and I just loved it. Fire, water, earth, air, you're dealing with the elements. It's super fundamental. You don't have to explain anything. It's not this goddess and that goddess with that quality. No. Fire. Wow. And it talks to something in me, which is very archaic. And it's a language that really doesn't need explanation.
And very experiential. Yeah. And a lot of things in your life are related to experimenting things.
Yeah.
Experimenting practices and spaces and so on. What was the relationship with your father?
The relationship with my father was complex because I think well, first of all, I was the second son. He had a son from a first marriage. So I think he first son was first son. And I think it took me many years to accept that I'm the second son, even if I'm the first one from the second marriage. So places was a topic. And I think I was kind of really pissed for many years to be not the first one. And actually it was very particularly interesting that when my elder brother died, something shifted in my father. He suddenly looked at me in a different way, like if he was seeing that I am his son. And I had the feeling that for 50 years I was my mother's son for him. So even for him something shifted. So it was difficult, and I was also a bit judgmental, and even quite judgmental about him. And I choose my mother rather than my father. So it took me a while to understand I don't have to choose between the two of them. But at the other end, I think I'm pretty proud of myself that I went to work with my father at some point of my career. And then we separated because I was saying it's you or me in the company, which was not the thing to do, but it was the way I dealt with it. And then I had a second chance in life, and I went to work a second time with here. And here we found a way to be the two side by side working on the same topics. And this is one of my achievements, is that I was able to do that loop and that we depart with respect for each other. And that was something I greet myself and I greet us, him and me, for the quality of respect that we gave each other.
So it was a journey, but it was a journey with a happy ending.
Yes, it was, yes.
When you had your first child, did you understood better your father while he was growing? Being at this level where you knew how it is to be a child and also how it is to be a father?
Interesting. When I had my first child, it was a game changer in the sense, and I experienced it with my daughter who had a first child. It's a game changer because it made me really feel that I'm building my family. So there's another reality than me and my parents. And by the way, I was an only child from the second marriage. So it made me really build something different than being the son of my parents. And I felt this when my daughter had her child, that I was kind of moving in another place because of her having a child. We are not in the same relation anymore. Life goes on. She has a daughter. Now, I do want to bounce back on is that I actually repeated the same pattern than my father. 2 children of a first marriage, divorce, and another single child of a second marriage. Interesting. How comes? And so I went through what he went through, interestingly enough, of, okay, you rebuild a family. How do you not forget the past family? Where are the children in which position? And it was a learning curve. And I did certain things that, as bad as he did or as good as he did, I wasn't so much a glorious a glorious guy, always.
You arrived into practicing and discovering yourself and healing traumas, which are also transgenerational, so they don't need to move further in the line.
Right.
And this is an opportunity that nowadays we are having, and this is why also we're having this podcast to encourage people to do it more and more,
Yeah.
also for themselves and also as a responsibility for future generations. And also understanding that the life is not only about facts and matter, it is also, and more important, about the deep layer of what is the life lessons and what we need to experience, no matter through which circumstances.
Right.
And I wanted to arrive to your father because I know that he was giving you or influencing your life towards being a builder and an architect.
True. So he was, most of his career was being a real estate developer, quite a big developer with big projects. And at some point I joined him when the company was really having a lot of work. Yeah, I learned through him and through the experience, because it was hands-on experience, really project planning, urban development, visualizing really what the thing is going to be 5, 6, 7 years ahead of time when you develop like a big mixed-use project, and then working with architects, construction companies, and then sales, and the whole process, which is complex and super rich. And yeah, it was a gift. It was a gift to develop projects and to think big. This was interesting.
At the core of it, it's your passion for spaces, because architecture and building stuff refers to where we put humans to experience life.
I've always loved spaces, and interestingly enough, I'm not so much an interior design guy. I'm more a construction and urban spatialization guy and exterior planning. I really like that. So the way you put a building in a space, the way it harmonizes with nature, how to respect nature enough to put a building without just dumping it, and also creating spaces that move you inside. I think spaces are not just spaces. As we have spoken previously, you put 15 centimeter or more height in a room, it creates another impression. The choice of openings in the room, according to where the daylight is moving, is quite something. I mean, you put just a wall without a window and you just miss sundown. Maybe you should make a small window there, and that difference creates a difference emotionally when you wander in a house. So there nothing is per se, and nothing is just out of hazard, or it can be out of hazard, but if you understand, if you watch, if you're sensitive to your environment, our architectural design can be really healing art. As people who practice Feng Shui knows, and they really are attentive to creating spaces that are good and healing and not destructive, and that are really uplifting and that are focused on functions also. A bedroom is not a workroom, and a social gathering room doesn't have to have the same energy than a bathroom, which is more intimate, which is more closer to your body, nudity, etc. So you really, if you have the awareness, then you can create quality, and that quality reflects then on the people who inhabit. So, and it's a celebration in a certain way. One thing which I find very interesting in the basic of Feng Shui is to have consciousness of different spaces for different functions. It means nothing is just all mixed together. You don't eat and sleep in the same room. You even if it's in the same room, you designate a corner where you eat, and then when you have eaten, you close that bracket, and then you go to the living room, and the living room is not the eating room, and the bedroom is, etc. So what I really find interesting, that it creates spaces and clarity within yourself by having consciousness of different spaces in your house. And that is good, because we have a tendency to mix everything. If I translate it into psychology, I would say There's a time to be a parent and there's a time to be a spouse. If you're all the time a parent, something is gonna miss. If you're all the time a spouse and you're not taking care of your kids, something is gonna miss. So there are times to be a parent and times to be a spouse. That's separated, and sometimes parents forget it. And they realize that they haven't been spouses once the kids leave home. And something got lost on the way. So I think that it all needs to be taken care of. Different aspects of us needs to be taken care of. And specialization gives a possibility to be conscious of it and have a reflection. I would say it's like with symbols, and it's like with shamanic objects. In shamanism, I find it interesting that you take an object and you charge it with an emotion or a thought. And whenever then you look at the object, you are reminded of your wish or of your desire. You have charged it. If you associate this bracelet with luck, whenever I look at the bracelet, I'm remembered of how lucky I am, for instance. So if I tend to forget that I'm lucky, I look at it and I say, what a good life I have. So the fact to materialize is a good help to not get lost in our thoughts, ideas, emotions, etc. And it's the same with spaces. I'm giving you a little bit to not browse too much, but it's so rich. Same thing with places of worship, for instance. You see, I find it very interesting. In all traditions, there's always a little altar. There's a little temple. Even in Chinese restaurants, you have a little altar, a few incense sticks and something for luck, with a little cat that does like this. There is a place to worship. It's not out of the place. It's part of it. And there's a place for that. And why not? We have lost that a lot in very modern Occidental culture. But if you go in many traditional cultures, little places of worships, or in the old days, we had Madonnas everywhere and reminders. Hey, and again, it's in space. Yeah, it's not just in your head.
And this is linked also with the rituals that one does in his home in order to create a lifestyle that it supports the spiritual aspect, what means to be present in that space and to own the space and to consider also as your cocoon that is protecting you and giving you the energy back and so on.
Today, for instance, when we design apartments, very often we don't make an entrance, which means very often you go directly into the living room. In the good old days, you always used to make an entrance. It's a tampon. It's a space that's protecting the street. It creates a space between outside and inside. And it's a transitional space, and that's where you leave your coat and your shoes and your umbrella, and then you go into the living room. This rhythm, it slows up. It slows down the chi from the street into the living room, and it creates a place of, okay, here I take my shoes off. There I don't have the shoes anymore. This way of sequencing, this way of separating it, again, you can say, okay, I don't want to bring my umbrella into the living room, but actually it slows down your inner state. Okay, I put my shoes, I put the umbrella, now I go into the living room. Hello, my darling, how was your day? It's as important as an altar at home. It's a way to sanctify home in a way. Okay, I slow down. Inside is not outside. Again, it's about, I think that one of the things I find interesting is the notion of being able to dissociate again everything which is just in the same pot.
And it's also then the aspect of the energy of the home. If the home is new, if the home is 100 years old, and with everything that was happening there, and with the energies that are stuck, or with entities and so on.
Sure. That's, you're right, another topic. One is design today, and one is how do you deal with a house that has been for 7 generations, 10 generations in the same family, and is loaded with a lot of stuff. It's interesting that one of the examples of houses that have recurrent problems, that's something that when you talk to people who are into geobiology and cleaning places, when there were wars and certain houses were used by the conquering army to put their headquarters in or their prisons there or whatever, even when they're gone after a few years, there's memory, there's traces of there's a sense of even if it wasn't a place of torture, but something was taken violently, something was misused for something, and it's not just going because the people are going. There's a trace, there's a vibration, you could say. And so if you're not aware, you don't know that, well, you're in the house. If you're sensitive, you see the house and then you say, I don't feel good, and you don't buy it. But if you're not so sensible, you will buy the house because it has nice windows and a nice form, and then you don't feel good and you get sick and you don't know why. So, it is important to be aware that houses capture energies and you can release it, and there are people who are qualified to do it in the same way that we can capture also energies which are not so pleasant to carry, and that then you go to see a healer or a really good doctor and he will help you release something which maybe is not belonging to you, but which you are sensitive, so it sticks to you. And yeah, it's the same thing with houses. It's interesting that also there's in geobiology, it's super interesting, and the Earth is not just Earth. I mean, it has fractures, and there's radioactivity coming from the center of the Earth. And in the days of the Greeks and the Romans, for instance, when they were building a temple, they would take a herd of sheep. You may have heard that before, and they would let them graze, and they would see where the animals feel good. And if the animals are avoiding places, well, then you don't build on the places the animals avoid. You build them on the places where they feel good, because that's where the energy is good. So it's not neutral. And today, which real estate developer, I mean, very few, are really going into a piece of land, even if it's very well located, and say, okay, let us observe which trees are not growing well and grow really crooked, and okay, maybe this piece of land is not so great, or maybe we have to do something about it. And you can eventually harmonize. There are people who are super gifted in reharmonizing energies on a piece of land. It's quite amazing.
And moving even forward is the link and the string that is created from the owner to the property and the house itself. And I know that you are having some stories related to it.
Well, it's interesting because as you ask this, I'm actually thinking of my wife, who does a very interesting work with people on their houses and on themselves, basically. I'll give you an example. She worked with me on an office that I had to take. And I was feeling that whenever I would enter the office, there was like a hurdle. I was really feeling I wanted to go. It's a beautiful office, but something is holding me back. So we tried to understand what is holding me back. And so she worked with me, questioning me, moving in space, etc., until we find that this space actually recalls things in me that, for whatever reason, that are blockages in me. And by becoming aware of them, I was actually able to release the blockages in myself and just enter the office in a very simple way and feel extremely good and be able to work that. That's one of the ways to work, how you work with the interaction between a space and a person. And you can do this also when a person wants to sell the house. I'm thinking of another story that she shared with me where I was not a witness, but somebody who has a family house for 300 years and they want to sell it, and it's just not happening. It's just impossible. So you really go with the person and try to understand and let the energy and the rods and the intuition lead you to maybe an object in the place, and that object, you don't know why, but once you find it, and it can be hidden in the cellar or in the attic, that object was placed by somebody 300 years ago, and it's charged with so much intention and so strongly that it's actually hindering something 300 years later. And you see it, and you eventually take the object and you will maybe displace it, and very respectfully, and say, whatever this person 300 years ago had as an intention, that she never wants to leave home, for instance. She never wants to leave that house. And 300 years later, that is still blocking the transfer of the house to somebody else, to another family. That you eventually take that intention and deposit it respectfully, maybe talk to the person, whoever it was, you don't know even the name, and say, well, we feel that there's something here hindering, we respect it. But 300 years have passed and now this house needs to move. It's good that it finds a new owner. And actually by performing this, something moves. Something changes for the owner and something changes really for the space. You have kind of moved something energetically, you can say, or whatever that means. But and this is work you do with a person, and it can really unblock a situation that is blocking the whole family who needs the money for something else, maybe for the kids to study. So actually, while saying this, I realized that when we talk about material goods, we're talking about a crystallized energy, and then when you want to sell, you basically want to decrystallize that energy to have other energy flowing for something else. So it's all the time about energy stuck somewhere, but that needs to move. And how can we help it move? So that life goes on. And I don't have all the answers, but it's a very, very interesting topic. And so really that this is, it's a wonderful point for me when I feel that I can match together what's happening on the material side and the business side and the energetical side and the human side, and that actually it's one thing. It's not very differentiated topics. It's one topic.
And you are mentioning an object as crystallized energy,
yes,
but also as emotions. And I know that you are having a direct encounter with a person that was having stuck emotions with his child about a property.
Yes.
He couldn't sell it.
There was an interesting story too. This was here in the Côte d'Azur, a German gentleman. He was selling a really nice house with a really good view, with a really nice garden, with easy access. So from a purely structural point of view, all the elements were there. He was selling it at the right price, not overpriced. So there would be no reason that he shouldn't sell it fast. And as a broker, I was working on it and nothing was happening. So this was kind of bizarre, and I started selling what every broker would say, make your house lighter. Come on, it's so stuffed with furniture and personal stuff. Make it lighter. Say, oh, okay, I will do it a little bit. Said, you need a little bit more than that. Okay, so he did a little bit more, but it was still not moving. And by coincidence, we talk, and he says, well, anyway, you make this house now be sold quickly, and I'm not going to give 1 penny to my son. Not 1 penny to your son? This kind of triggered me, and I said, well, why? He says, my son, he's not talking to me, he doesn't call me 5 years, and I'm not gonna call him ever. If he doesn't call me, I'm not gonna call him. I was thinking, this is an elder gentleman, he's over 70, he wants to go back to his country, he will not want to see his son, and his grandchildren either, so he's already anticipating that he's gonna go back to his home country, and he's not going to see his son and his only son, and he's not going to see his grandchildren, and that is the end of his life. And I was thinking, well, yeah, I have to tell him, sir, I'm sorry. I mean, it seems no relation with selling of your house, but my heart bleeds when I hear this. You shouldn't finish your life like this, come on. And I suggested him that he should work on his relation with his son, which I could suggest because I am guiding family constellations, and which is a great group therapy tool to put into situation in 3D what you're basically experiencing within yourself in terms of emotions and thoughts. So if you think that your son is really a horrible son who doesn't call you, you actually choose somebody in the audience to represent your son, and if he wants to take the role, then you will tell your son representative, you never call me, and I'm never going to call you. And then we're going to see what happens if you have him really standing, because you're avoiding seeing him for 5 years. So let's see how you feel when you're really in front of him. And this gentleman over 70s, he accepted to do that. He went into a family constellation, and it was not in his mother tongue. We played around with languages. And what is amazing is really that after the constellation, a few weeks later, he called me and he said, I spoke to my son, I called him, and I'm going to see him for Christmas with my grandchildren. And from the moment he did that, everything changed in the way he was preparing to leave the house. He was preparing joyfully to leave the house that he has been living here in the Côte d'Azur for 25 years. He was packing joyfully. He was emptying the house at a speed which was amazing. And the house got sold very easily at the right price with no bargain. So his transformation internally changed the dynamics of the whole process. And that shows reversely how much our inner states condition our physical reality. Because the house itself really had no problem. But actually, he actually probably didn't want to leave it because he didn't want to go back, because he didn't want to confront his son. Wow. So, amazing.
Going from architecture and from houses to, you were mentioning constellations.
Yeah.
And I would like to go deeper.
Yeah.
And we were having a discussion about constellation, and I was naming them the real life theatrical play.
Yep.
And the most linked with consciousness itself.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask you, how does it work? Why it is so alive?
Huh. Okay, the first thing of it is, the basic rule of the constellation is we're playing real. We're not playing. In France, we say tapis. You put all your, like in poker, you bet everything on the table. You're not holding back. So the rule of constellation, the basic rule, and then everybody cheats anyway a little bit, because we're humans. But the basic rule is we're not going to play to show a nice face of ourselves. What does it mean? It means that if I was verbally abused by my father or my sister or my brother or my mother for 10 years as a child, I'm not going to say, my dad is such a great dad. And actually you can say it, but because we're playing the truth game, we're going to be in a group, and somebody in the group usually will say, it sounds fake. I'm not buying it. So we are playing real. Real means really, we're here together to talk about what we feel, even our craziest ideas, which may be totally wrong, but we're saying it. Like, I think my brother is the devil. Okay, we can say that. My brother is probably not the devil. But I've been believing and building up a story that my brother is a devil. And you know what? I'm not going to play the nice brother thing. I'm going to say, I really think my brother is the devil. And we might say, maybe you're a little bit the devil too. So the basics is really, we play real. And we can do it because we play it confidentially. So when a group of people comes to make a constellation, maybe 5 people, 10 people, 15 people, 30 people, the basic rule is, this is confidential. We're going to spend half a day or a day together working on each other's stories. What is said stays in the room. And in this room, we are really playing real. Real means nevertheless very respectful. Nobody's going to hit anybody, but we play real. The second thing is, how it works is, I come with a problem. I want to talk about my lousy relation with my brother. And the person who is guiding the constellation will ask a few questions. What is the context? How many brothers and sisters are you? Which kind of family were you? How was your father? How was your mother? Very often it starts with family. Okay? But behind the issues of family, my father was very violent and drank a lot of alcohol. Okay. What's the background of your father? Oh, he actually had to flee Yugoslavia when there was the war, and actually half of his family was eliminated. Okay. Okay, so there's a broader understanding that we are not just My father's not just my father has a context. And that context, I don't even know about the context, but if I actually just open my heart and my sensitivity to it, well, I may not be agreeing to the fact that he was drinking and beating, but there's a reason. It comes from somewhere. How was his father treating him? How was the social context? So by opening up to the stories of our sisters and brothers and fathers, etc., and we're going back in generations, we defocalize from one person's responsibility and guilt, and we understand the broader picture. And by understanding the broader picture, it discharges the attention that we're giving to he's guilty, no, he's guilty, she's guilty, it's, or the Germans are guilty, or the French, no, and no, wait a minute, it's more complex.
Out of blame and shame.
Yes, out of blame and shame. And that is a big one. You also, in a constellation, well, my father never treated me well. Okay, choose your father, but let's choose also your mother. And I'll get to how it happens physically, but get your mother. And suddenly we discover that you see only the father, but the mother's keeping quiet all the time. So she's not taking a stand. So if she's not taking a stand, she's co-creating something. If he has the whole floor to hit and blame me, well, as long as she's not intervening, she's part of the thing. But I've only seen him, and I didn't see her. So the co-responsibility is kind of a topic that is very interesting. It doesn't take away his responsibility, but she has hers, and I have mine. So in a constellation, you choose different characters that will come up of the narrative that you are describing to the therapist, and sometimes the therapist will suggest something out of the blue, or a joker. Sometimes you choose a character that is the joker. You don't know why, but you feel you have to bring in a joker. And you will see, and in the constellation, the joker will uncover itself. We will discover this is the grandfather who disappeared in the war, or this is the child who was born and died after one day, or this is even... So you understand that everything counts and everything asks for recognition. Every unborn child is not just nothing. Every pregnancy that was interrupted for whatever reason is not just nothing. And every person who died in a war, it's not just a person who died in a war. So we, in a constellation, understand that emotions that we carry, or grief that we carry, or pain, or blockages, may come from our family environment, and that we have absorbed in, and it depends. Each child absorbs something different. We're different people and characters, and we're more or less permeable to certain informations, but that we carry them and we can release them if we acknowledge them. So basically it's a consciousness game. In a constellation, you will bring from below what is hidden in your unconsciousness, in the family unconsciousness. You will see it, and once it's seen, it can be released. And it can also be said, this doesn't belong to me, it belongs to you, grandfather. Your problems with women that you have passed on to your son, well, I don't want to be the third generation that is carrying this kind of way of not liking women. I give you back whatever your experience was, and I honor your experience, but it's not my story anymore. And you draw a line for yourself, and you take back what is yours, and you give back what is not yours. And again, it's like what I was describing with spaces, you dissociate again. So when you say the Domberger family, well, the Domberger family is a family, but I'm Michel. And I have a very specific function here in life. So it's a family constellation to actually recover your own individuality. And at the same time, not reject anything. It's actually by not rejecting and embracing that you can differentiate and become again yourself.
Does constellation offer you the opportunity to experience channeling?
I could say yes. Intuition, for sure. Intuition, really, for sure. It means sometimes you're in the midst of the constellation. I have to add that constellation is a 3D thing. So once people have taken a role, the way we have learned to do constellation is to give everybody to the rule of the game is go where your body leads you. So if you chose the mother and you want to be at the other end of the room giving the back to the whole scene, do it. If you are the kid brother and you want to lay on the floor, lay. Okay, so there is really something which is very spatial, and it reflects very much the notion of constellation, that you see that like the planets that move, and they're all linked in a gravitary field, you can see that if somebody will suddenly, if the father suddenly is realizing something and his inner mood changes, and from being the very proud father, he becomes suddenly more sensitive and he realizes the pain that he has caused. The moment he shifts emotionally, the mother turns around, the brother rises from being right. So it's totally linked. That's really a very beautiful aspect. So it's like a dance between information and a bodily expression. In the constellation, when you are guiding one, very often you may have an intuition and would say, there is a vacuum, there is a void in the field. Can somebody come in and just stand there? It's a pure intuition, and something happens. It's like putting an acupuncture needle on and wow, the energy starts moving. So that is very intuitive. Our teacher said sometimes I don't even hear the stories. I just see the energy, how it's going in the room, and you put needles, or you say one word and the scene changes, and you don't know why you say that word. Sometimes there's a void in the scene and somebody will say, there's a dead child. You don't know why you get that information, but you say there's a dead child, and at that moment, boom, the constellation switches. So yeah, I don't know if I can call it channeling, but for intuition, for sure.
Intuition, I was thinking about channeling because it is that aspect when people are speaking in the name of other people, even deceased people.
Okay, that's why you're saying it. Now, okay, I don't know exactly how it works, but what is quite amazing that is if you play this truth game and you ask me to take the role of the deceased grandfather who was in Stalingrad during World War II, and he died there. And if I feel that, yeah, I want to take that role, okay, and you can say no. Again, this is, by the way, super important constellations. Nobody's asked to be politically correct. Please, no. No political correctness at all. Don't please your friend. No. You don't feel it, you don't do it. You take the role, and if you take it, it's amazing. The moment you say yes, it's like you're getting the information. You will sometimes physically change, right? It's amazing. You're there, you're seated, and suddenly something in your body is starting to contract. And at the end of the constellation, when we debrief, shortly, little bit, very little, to keep the impressions, somebody would say, I can't believe it. You really acted like my grandfather or like my grandmother, etc. And you, physically, and it's amazing. Or sometimes you say words, and the other says, this word, only my grandfather was saying it. How comes? So it is quite amazing how you can call it channel it. It's like you tune into the information, you're really open to it, you get it. By the way, and because you asked me about the process, what I find amazing, when you take a role, you work as much as the person who does the constellation. Because by taking a role of a grandfather or an archetype or whatever, by taking a role, you're going to work on your own story. If you take the role of a mother, you're going to work on your mother. If you're a woman, you're going to work on your motherhood. It's always work two-sided. It's quite amazing, and so everybody's working. But yeah, it is amazing the channeling in a way that is happening. Yes, you tune in.
I would like to delve deeper into what means to prepare the space for the constellation, and what is the nature and the impact of the shamanic side that you are bringing into the constellations.
Well, we're creating definitely, and I could say we're charging the space. And I say we because we work very often, mostly with my wife together. So we work as a tandem. So creating the space is really preparing it, sometimes the evening before, smudging it, lighting a candle. Eventually, sometimes we use cards to give people, when the different people want to constellate, we're drawing cards. So we leave hazard a space. So sometimes the cards will draw it the evening before. And wherever the person is going to sit, he already has his card, and it's the card of the game. So you see, there's a game with archetypes and hazards. So the person sits at the place where a card is there, which is an archetype of tarot, for instance, and it's already prepared. The room is charged with certain archetypes. Out of the 22 tarot cards, maybe if we're 10 people, there are 10 cards. So that is already setting an informational space, okay? Then when we do the constellations, we use, and I use regularly the drum and the singing. There are moments, it's like if you are in a film. And at certain moments of the film, suddenly the sound starts, you tune up the sound. It can be soothing sounds that are really necessary to go deep, 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 deep into something very delicate and very profound. And it's going to be almost like a South American Peruvian Icaro that is really pushing you gently, gently, gently into a space of big, big, delicate intimacy. And then there are moments you're going to hit the drum really hard to really start getting into, hey, connect to your fire. Stop being nice to your dad in a way, which means you've been kind of crawling under for 40 years. This is the time to stand up for yourself. And there you might give a push with a good drum beat. So that is very shamanic. You're really working on you use sound as a tool to allow the expression of something. You use smudging sometimes also during a constellation when the energy is super heavy, super dense. You might sage or use other smudging. Actually, sometimes people purge. I mean, there's a basin, and if necessary, if you have to spit, you spit. The shamanic aspect is there. The Chinese spit all the time. There's something in you that has to go out. We're not keeping it and swallowing it. No, we stop swallowing stuff that is not good for us. So that is very shamanic. We sometimes really have rituals. And the way, again, we were trained is, we call it family constellations. Constellation familiale, systemic, so systemic constellations. It's not only family, it's any system. So we constellate companies, collaborators, bigger systems. We can make constellation about countries. We have done constellations about parties that are at war. And let's have Ukraine and Russia and make a constellation on that topic. And we constellate, and we have rituals in the constellation. That is, yes, the shamanic aspect. So sometimes somebody was 8 or 9 or 10 years old and the grandfather died, and the kid was not invited to the funeral, and suddenly grandfather was not there anymore, and there's a blank. And actually, the person needs to experience the funeral of the grandfather. So we'll have a funeral. So somebody who represents the grandfather is going to lay down. We're going to put some tissue, some fabric on him, and we're going to light candles, and we're going to sing a funeral song. And here is an opportunity to really grieve and cry whatever you could not cry for 25 years ago. That is very shamanic too. And it is very much about allowing the expression of our emotions that were maybe blocked at some point, and it's still waiting for 30 years to be expressed. So here we go. Let's go for it. Let's really cry. Let's really laugh. Let's really express our anger. This is the place. So it's a holy place in a way in which you can really express everything that needs to express so that you come out lighter. And it's not taking so much place in your life anymore. You know, whenever you see a movie and somebody is dying, so you grieve and you're in front of your television and it's not, stop. Grieve once and for all, and then you're more light. So,
And for the past and also for the future.
yep. And also for the future. Now, that is a very... So, first of all, what is really super interesting is you make a constellation, and really in 90% of the cases, the next day or the next week, really big things change in your life. It's quite amazing. The person who never called you calls you. The father who never embraced you embraces you. Really changes happen. The fact that you were eating all the time, suddenly you don't want to eat all the time anymore. It's quite amazing that things happen. So that is for the future. And the other thing is really, yes, you're very right. We do in constellation work with the timeline. So sometimes really interestingly, we'll say, okay, choose yourself, you're 40, choose yourself at the age of 5. Choose yourself at the age of 25. Choose yourself in 10 years. And choose yourself the day you're going to die. And these different characters of yourself, we're going to now see how they interplay and who has to say what to whom. It's very interesting to hear what the person you are going to be the day you die is going to tell you. Very often when you work on topics of people who died in very dramatic circumstances, like war, for instance, where people died, you believe, or we have a tendency to believe, that in order to honor their death, we kind of cannot be as happy as we should. And very often when you make the dead speak, all they want, and particularly if they're your family, they usually say, please, live a good life. There's nothing more you can please us more with than if you live a good life. Don't be in grief for us. We died 60 years ago. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I wanted to compliment you only by saying this is the same with clothing. To wear dark clothes at a funeral is not the best aspect.
Yes.
Neither from a spiritual point of view and neither for what you can attract and take upon you with that type of clothing, but being a light for and dressing lightly at a certain event, it's much more profound and benefic for the event itself.
Yeah.
Because we were going deeper into family constellations, I felt while you were describing such a stable and such a grounded presence that you were becoming only speaking about it. And I think this became a characteristic of who you are. And to get to understand where is this rooted, I would like to take you in time and to ask you, where was the first time when you encountered your true self?
Probably the first time I saw my true self and the fears of my true self was doing a karate, in a karate dojo, being 13 years old and feeling really such tremendous, profound fear in myself. And I think that was kind of a super interesting experience, but that's maybe not the true self, but it's something that was very existentially strong. Moments that are linked to theater and music. I've been a few years of my life, I've been in directing and in not real estate, in theater and film and television production, direction, different positions, etc. And
which would have to prepare you for family constellations.
Absolutely. And exactly, when you said it's the most amazing theater of the world, that's exactly what I thought. When I met Constellation, I said, this is better than any theater in the world. Anyway, I was very touched once in a recording studio when I mixed the first final mix of music, text, and pictures of a film that I did as a director and producer, and it was all coming together, and this was just an amazing moment, that this is possible, that it works out the way I've imagined it. This was pure bliss. I have experienced it very much in certain moments of dancing, where I was just kind of the dance. I was not myself anymore. This is something amazing. I've experienced it in certain drumming groups where there are some really great people who are doing 24-hour nights drumming ceremonies, which are, you get in a state of trance, which is just way beyond who you think you are. I've experienced it in a vision quest, which is American Indians ritual initiation rite where you go 4 days and 4 nights up on the mountain, fasting, not drinking, not eating, and sitting alone without a tent in the nature and just with yourself. No book, no phone, no notebook, nothing. I've experienced it in the Sundance ceremonies at certain moments, which is another American Indian ritual. And there are probably other places, and with some plant medicine experiences also, So there are really moments of connection to a dimension of myself which is so full of bliss that, wow. And then you forget. And then you have all these experiences, and then after a few months you forget, and life is miserable, it's so complex, blah, blah, blah. So then you need to not forget that you can have access again to that. Yeah.
I was asking you because during your life you have accumulated a lot of experiences as therapies, as rituals, as dancing, as doing art. How all these practices impacted you, and why it was this desire to discover others and others? Because for some people, they found a practice and they go with it all their life, and they let their intuition into putting the right questions for themselves. But you are having this desire of understanding Sufism, of understanding non-duality, of understanding shamanism. What was this constant desire of discovering the world?
I really think I have memories of different lives, probably, and I haven't spent much time studying past life stuff, but there are really certain traditions which I felt are really close to my heart, not even knowing why. Sufism, for instance, it's really, it's very close to me. There's something that is culturally really profoundly embedded, and I really don't know where it comes from. Or, for instance, as I told you, the praying in a certain way, in the Catholic way, I don't know why, but it's so close to me. So I think I really have gathered in me kind of a database of different cultures, which makes that not every of them. I don't have any particular link, for instance, to African culture, but to certain I do. And by the way, the South American, for instance, it's clear. It's reconnecting to Argentina. So when I speak to a Spanish-speaking shaman in Spanish, I'm back home. So that's easy. And that's, for instance, why I love American Indian traditional songs for rituals, because they're happy and lively, etc., etc. But for instance, I remember that when I started discovering North American Indian shamanism, there was some singing group together when we learned Lakota songs. I felt at home. It was not Lakota from another culture. It was just sounds that sounded so familiar. So I think really there is a joy of and closeness to certain. Another thing is, for certain things is, I think on the other hand, and this is a bit more self-critical or analytical, sometimes there are some thresholds I did not want to cross at certain moments in my life in a certain way. So instead of going further, I just changed the lane and discovered another way. It's another way. It's a way to cheat a little bit with yourself. And then the other way brings you again to the threshold. But this time you go a bit farther. But then comes another threshold. I'm not going to go there. Whoop, and you change the lane again. And sometimes, actually, you have made the way there and you come back to this lane. So for instance, I had a Qigong master for many years in Paris. He was absolutely wonderful. And 30 years later, I have a new Qigong master. And I have another consciousness in the practice. So voila, that is a more self-critical vision of it. The third one is really I have, again, I think I had a deep longing to understand why there are so different cultures in the world and what is the common denominator. And really, each time I can cross it and say, oh, this is like that. Oh, I find in Catholicism the same thing than in American Indian shamanism. Actually, we're talking about the same things. They're expressed differently. I feel so relieved. I have the feeling that I understand the complexity of life that boils down to very simple, essential life rules. And that's maybe my way to track different things and be able and compare and then basically see, okay, common language. Delicious.
You're creating a bridge.
Yeah.
Or it was said also about me, about from one of our past guests, that I am having mycelial or a mushroom energy, is that when you harvest and when you get into diversity of all the plants and trees and so on, and you retransform all of what was produced towards something else, the soil and something else that will be used for a future plant or for a future tree. So I think that we are sharing the same thing of complexity of on horizontal, not on vertical.
Right.
And because you are saying about this diversity, it came to my mind the concept of community.
Yep.
Because it's keep on coming back in this podcast and as topic in the mainstream media. Communities as people that are following the same interest, and this is also the community of the Awareness Club, but also what means to live in a community and the spaces that you can create for people when we are finally merging what technology is today to what was the ancient way of living and people coming together in a tribe or community or place.
I don't know much about Buddhism, but there's something that sticks to me, which is the notion of Sangha, which means community, and the community of practitioners, and that holds basically together certain values in a certain practice. And I think it's super important. And because of who I am, my community cannot only be a national community or a religiously constrained or specified community, although I see the beauty and the power of being identified to a community and how it feeds and how it empowers. And here we can even go into the topic of egregores, of energy pulled together and held together by common values, etc. There's no doubt that if you go to a soccer match and you choose one club versus the other, and you are 30,000 people in a stadium versus another 30,000, the fact that you chose to be one or the other, wow, you were part of something powerful. And that allows you to manifest something. You experience, it's not nothing to be, it's already good, much if you're 20, but if you're 1,000 or 30,000 people. So you have certain benefits of being part of a club. But if that club to exist has to exist against another club, it's a bit edgy. For me, it's a bit edgy. I am aware and I look for the non-duality, for the oneness. I'm really, that is what I'm longing for. So it cannot be for me man versus women. It can only be man and women together, and my male and female parts, and it has to be really what we're striving for. So that community goes way beyond, and that is that makes it more hard for me, because many communities are very specific, and so my community is the community of those who want to embrace large. And yeah, I think we need communities. Coming more specifically back to your question, as it was said, if I'm not for myself, who am I? But if I'm only for myself, you know, we need each other. And I actually value it. You see, I'm somebody who's very profoundly adoring group therapy work or group rituals, because the group has something that is just so delicious. They're so different, there's so many aspects, there's so many ways of seeing reality. It surprises me regularly, and it's good that I'm surprised. I cannot control the thing in the same way, and it's good not to be overtaken by something which is much broader. And the community has a self-healing aspect, and that is actually something I'm really happy to bounce back on regarding constellations. What I find amazing is that you can come to a constellation and you can decide not to take a role because it's too edgy for you, and you don't want to take any character because you don't want to take a character, and it's okay. You sit on the bench and you watch, and you take part, and you feel. At the end of the day, you're not the same. And what happens, and what is super interesting, and that is the group aspect, again, it's the community aspect. It's you come in and you think you have the biggest problem in the world. Nobody feels what you feel. Then you watch and you hear, and you say, you know, my problem is big. But it's not so big, because when I hear his problem or her problem, hey, au secours. No. So that is a regulator. And then there are those who come and say, I don't have a problem. My life is good. Then you watch other people's story and you say, oh man, do I have a problem? And I wasn't even aware of it. That is only possible because I hear and see the other one. And we need the other one to have mirrors of ourselves. And it's so good. And when it's cultivated in a friendly environment, it's so healing. It's so healing. Sometimes it's just a look. I will never remember, I sundanced, and boy, was it hard. And there was this guy at 80 meters away, and he was a good guy, I liked him. And at this moment, just the look he gave me, I went through it like this. He was with me, and that was enough. If he wasn't there, if I was just with myself, I would have fallen down, fainted, etc. His look, supportive, present, trusting. Wow. So I really think we need that. We need it. The look of my wife. One look, don't take yourself so seriously. Okay, good, thank you so much. We get lost in our thoughts and emotions and worlds, and we need each other to help us, embrace us. And you know, actually, I find that life is super edgy. There are moments you want to jump out of the window. There are moments that are so edgy. If there wouldn't be that guy who's looking at you, or your wife holding your hand, or your child, the energy that overtakes you is sometimes so strong that you would really take the car and bust yourself against the wall. But you don't do it because there's this guy or this person or this girl, and they say, come on. So community is super important, and sure, I can then develop differently, but I wanted to mention this basic. And that's what's actually missing when parents don't take care of the kids. You know, I had a dream this morning. It was really interesting for me. One of the dreams I had this morning was that when I woke up was to say, I had a dream about my elder son. And I had the feeling we were not communicating and understanding and listening to each other. And in my dream, I was suddenly taking consciousness that life is short. And I could die, and we may miss each other on certain aspects of ourselves. And shit, I mean, I'm not here to live this life to not be really having a real communication or understanding, profound understanding of who my son is, or him for who I am. If we are meeting at this level of intimacy, we better use that opportunity. And it was very touching, because it was making me understand that, hey, life goes quickly, and you know what? There are some precious people around you. Don't get lost in your ideas, in your projects, in your plans. Real relations. So coming back to basic community, hey, who's around me? Who is around me? How do I take care of people? How much am I available, or just pretending to be available with my thoughts? I'm already after this conversation and I'm already there, and this, no, hey, presence.
And what you are describing until now is the close circle. It's either close circle of the family,
Yes.
or the close circle of the people that you surround with, where you are living and so on. But then this takes as a fundament for another passion of yours, which is diplomacy.
Yes, which, thank you, diplomacy.
Because it's the same thing, it's the relationship and the appreciation of the others.
Yes.
And also to find the middle ground of each other's needs, and also to understand how we are a mirror, as you were saying, for each other. And also, in the end, how contexts are bringing us together in different points on this globe and in different moments of time when we all needed it as individuals or as representative of our communities or countries and so on.
Yep, I will bounce back twofold. One thing is about, it took me a while to understand that if I want peace in the world, I have to make the peace within me. That no blah blah about peace is helping anybody. It's what emanates from you, how peaceful you are within, that creates something. So in a way, and at some point, and this was a few years ago when I started meditating, which I couldn't do for many years. I just didn't understand why you sit on something and wait. But then I started meditating, and I really understood that meditation is a political act. For me, it became very clear that if you regulate your own emotions, if you are becoming aware of things happening within you, you are actually changing the world. So personal development is, for me, political action before anything else. It really is about taking responsibility, and it is about harnessing your own wild horses and your own dragons and your own crazy stories that you create into yourself, and your finger pointing and all of that. So you want to change the world, you want peace in the world, you want everything to be harmonious, start with yourself. And I think I'm doing progress in this way, at much less finger pointing and much more working within myself. And in a way, it reflects really in a diplomatic way, and I see it sometimes in negotiations between clients, partners, sellers, or things like this, that you really, by your presence, things change. Sometimes one of your clients goes and makes 5 rounds of, and you listen, and you really listen, and you really feel, and you really absorb, and you really let go, and you really don't take it for full, but you understand where it's coming from, and something then suddenly is shifting and is possible because you gave room to that.
And that is the description of what means to hold somebody and not to be held.
Yeah.
Because when you express and you are more in the victim position, you need to be held by somebody, by your friends, by your family, by your drama. And then when you're starting to hold people, you're starting to understand, you are giving compassion, and you also can release what they cannot release. And they can do that in your presence. And this is how people that are getting very nervous and frustrated and so on, when they are having a person that is holding at an invisible layer, because they could not stand if it would be on a physical face-to-face level, but only in that presence they start to rebalance themselves as well through the frequency that we are emanating to from one to each other, and this holding understanding that I understand you, I am with you, even if we don't agree. That is just a matter of circumstance, but on the profound level we are here together in this.
Yes, Bogdan, and I want to, while you were saying this, I was really thinking about also accepting the suffering and accepting the violence and accepting the abuse. I think as long as we fight it, it means we have not accepted that it exists. And again, we're talking about diplomacy, but I was thinking about what happened between Israel and Gaza in the last years and what's happening in Ukraine, which is super tough. Honestly, it's been moving me a hell of a lot in the past years. You cannot change anything if you don't fully accept that the conflict is really, to take again that loving what is includes loving war that is. It means not rejecting it and saying it should not be. It is. It is, and if it is,
It is.
it is. It has its place. Stop saying it shouldn't be. Stop saying abuse shouldn't be. Somebody did not intervene and somebody was abused. Okay. Let's see what happens when this happens in front of you. Will you be able to take a stand? We'll see. But that's reality. And as long as we want to be different and we want to be heroes, nice guys, blah, 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 we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what would happen if somebody would aggress my child. Would I defend him? Would I not defend him? And really accepting and including accepting all the violence that happens in the world. I don't think you can change anything if you don't start there. And I think really it took me a long while to get to this point. And I'm not always reacting according to what I'm saying, but
this is also the appreciation towards loving what is and Byron Katie.
Yes, absolutely.
Is the context.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think a lot of people say the same thing that she articulates in a very, I find interesting and always very simple, determined way. But Byron Katie, interviewed by, doing the work in some jail with some drug dealers and addicts, etc. I mean, it's just extraordinary how much of absolute humane acceptance. By the way, this makes me think that really it's very interesting in constellations that when you are dealing with abuse, whatever, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, and actually you're surprised once you dip into this work, you realize how many people have suffered from abuse in different forms. Before you're really getting into it, you can't, and once you're really in it, it's just so big. So big. I mean, really, I was lucky. There was verbal abuse and psychological abuse, but no physical abuse in my family. There was no parents sleeping with their kids, and really tough things, and repeatedly and over years. Wow, you are, but, and when I say sleeping, I mean sexual relations and incest, etc. But, and I got off track. Yeah, what is amazing in when you do the work and you undig this, it is so much harder for the people who perpetrate the abuse. They are so trapped in guilt and violence. They don't know how to get out of it. They need so much more love and care than the victim very often, because they're really entrenched in almost a place where they cannot go out anymore of. I am the victim who perpetrated the abuse. What is the solution? Suicide? No. It's just accepting that you did what you did, and you couldn't do better, and that's it. And eventually asking for, at least admitting your responsibility is already a big part. But the truth is, when you are in rage and something horrible happens through you, wow, you are stuck with it, it's terrible. So, yeah, that's what came to my mind when we were touching at this very specific topic. So, yeah, and then when I bounce back again to big dramas, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't like to be, well, depends the level of consciousness, but I wouldn't like to be somebody who perpetrated the October 7th Hamas attack in certain kibbutzes. And I wouldn't like to be a soldier in Gaza who went from house to house and blew up stuff. And I mean, honestly, it's not an easy position.
But they were playing, and they were also manifesting something that they need to experience in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And this brings me to asking you, what?
And it's a collective game. Sorry to
It's
interrupt.
also a collective.
Here we go back to the egregores.
Yes.
It's a collective game.
Yeah.
And the whole world is watching.
Yeah.
And so...
and it is hard for each one of us. So this is where my next question is. What was the hardest thing in your life to renounce to?
To renounce?
Yes, in your evolutionary process. Something that you're holding from your shadow, something that you needed to overpass, something that you needed to forgive. What was the hardest thing?
So far or to come? Because I think I still have a few things to come. The hardest thing? To be able to be the performer, to be the ideal performer, something like this, you know? Some kind of a self-image that my worth is dependent on my performance or something like that. I think it's a biggie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's one that is very hard to pull out. It's getting better.
And what triggered your attention towards it? When you realize that I'm performing, or I need this performance in order to feel good?
Well, I realized it quite a few times when I failed. When I fail, I say, fuck. Sorry for being gross at some points.
Yeah.
When I fail and I say, what is happening? I'm doing so much and this is so great and I'm really doing my best and I don't know, I don't understand and and I actually, it's just happening. Stop getting so. But the performer says there must be a reason. The why again. Why is this happening? And why is it happening to me? And blah, blah, blah. So giving yourself a hell of a lot of importance. So yeah, uprooting this self-importance and linked to performance is a topic. I think that I am a type 4 Enneagram or something like that, and that my identity is quite linked to my success or performance, etc. So I'm getting slaps to get out of it, to just be without just be.
And then during everything that you were doing to discover yourself in your life, what did you find as different stages of recognizing who you truly are?
There definitely was a first stage, which is I'm not going to play according to my parents' scenario, which actually was complex because they had very different scenarios for me. So it's not like they had one scenario. No, they had different scenarios. Okay. Complexity. But that was the first one. So I very early on wanted to leave home. I was like 15 and a half and I wanted to leave home, and they were okay to let me study in another city, in another country very early. But that was the first one. The second one was probably...
So 1 second. Was that a relief to go out of home? Or you were going out of home and then you realized, what did I do?
No, it was a relief. No, I wanted out of home. I just was bored and I wanted out and I wanted to have my life, my schedule. So that was really very good. Then I found myself a bit alone, but okay, that was okay. There was another stage where I left my father's company and I gave myself a hero role. I split from him because I wanted to For many reasons, basically, I thought I was better qualified to continue to lead the company. It was getting old, and people were saying me, it's you, it's not him, want to talk to, blah, blah, blah. And it inflated my ego really wonderfully, and it gave me the possibility to give him a big sidekick and say, get out, it's me. And then I got out, and then I made my own thing, and my own thing didn't work out at all. And I really busted financially and on a project, and it was really tough. And I really gave my best, so that quieted me down. And coming back to work with him, a little less like a cock, as we say in French, a little less proud.
Proud, yeah.
That was an interesting learning curve of, you're having your problems, I'm having my problems, and I'm not just perfect, and I'm not just a smart guy. That was an interesting point.
Humble as well.
Yeah. And also, I really, interestingly enough, when I went the second time to work with him, I really decided, this time, I'm not going to leave like the first time, banging the door, basically. This time I came to make it work, not to confront myself to him.
Because in this, meanwhile, you were also evolving on the interior.
I did.
So you didn't want a conflict anymore. You wanted to solve something that was more rooted also, and what was dragging you down.
Yeah. And I wanted a good relation with him. I stopped being my mother's son who was trying to fight wars through me with my father, showing him that I'm better on her behalf. No.
Same story. Just as a parenthesis, yeah, exactly the same story.
So that was a really big change. It was really a change of conscious change of, hey, this relation, I want to live it well, and I'll do my best for it. Wow. Another big change, game changer, was really this was happening at the same time that I did all my American Indian shamanic discovery, North American rituals, etc. And this was a real initiation. And it really brought me into my body, into rhythm, into singing, into archaic stuff. And this was really a game changer for me. Something really sticked. And that was beyond outer recognition. That was a big one. And if I want to make it short, because I'm kind of long in my responses, I would say that when I discovered for the first time plant medicine not so long ago, I really touched the divine. Whoa, that was something. And I really saw and felt that it's not a half game. I mean, you can play this in and out game, but either you're open or you're not. Or you play a little bit open, etc., etc. But if you really want to go for full open heart, boy, full open heart is a very different life than half opened life, half opened heart life. Full open heart life it's Jesus. I mean, really, it's totally open. It's not, oh yeah, now I'm open. Oh no, I'm a little, now I'll take holidays. No. This is, and I really felt it. And I'm not there yet because, I mean, I saw it, but I went back. But I saw it and I felt it. And I felt physically and consciously, as my father would say, you're not a little bit pregnant. You're pregnant. You're not playing. This is it. You're in it. So you're not spiritually a little bit pregnant. And that is really the leap of trust. There's a leap of trust, like with many things. That leap of trust is, you just go for it.
And overall, what would you say that brought to you the plant medicine?
The connection to my deepest longings. I kind of connected through something that was a quest for connection to my soul or God or whatever. Amazing experiences in which I was kind of touching my most darkest sides, and at the same time observing myself playing out my darkest sides and laughing at myself playing out my darker side, like if I would be in the Beelzebub role and I'm observing myself in the role saying, having a good time? Cool role, guy. I would add a little bit of blush and more flames, you know? And it was kind of crazy, and going back and forth of seeing myself and then being absorbed by the role again and then going out of it and realizing how there is a level of consciousness, and then there's the playground where I'm absorbed by the game. But the level of consciousness that observes the game, wow, that is amazing. That is really, really amazing. So that is the other amazing experience of self-observation. And that is actually in so many different schools, and there is this notion of self-observation. In Gurdjieff's teaching in the Fourth Way and in many others, even Byron Katie, it's about self-observation. Even with people like Access Bar and others, self-observation has a very active role. Look at yourself, and you actually don't be absorbed all the time.
And also, what is your philosophy of life and your belief system? Because you are mentioning shamanism, you're mentioning rituals, you're mentioning Jesus Christ, you're mentioning plant medicine. How does all this fit in one single picture?
Okay, what comes up is love all, serve all. Sounds a bit like a stereotypic answer, so I would like to find something else. Precious self-doubt, precious self-love. Don't believing everything that I think and feel is, I think, really a good guard. And precious self-love, so important. At the end of the game is love yourself. It's the best. You start with loving yourself. The rest is so much easier. There's so much. Stop expecting. Give it to yourself. I think we're all, and I've been looking outside of myself so much to come to the conclusion, guy, treat yourself like a human being, like a really beautiful guy. I mean, just be nice to yourself. And it takes work to do it for a guy like me.
Why do you think this last challenge in your life appeared 2 years ago?
I had a real burnout, and together with, I would have to think what came first, but basically I lost the eyesight on my right eye. I had retina problems, repeated, and a bad operation, and so I lost the vision on my right eye. And this was kind of following a very interesting moment where I really felt that it was like I was having things that seemed to work really well professionally, and I had the feeling I had the foot on the gas and I couldn't lift the foot anymore. And I was just, and I was feeling my whole system and my nervous system just saying it's too much, but I could not lift the foot off the gas. And I think my inner circuits just were so intense that something had to, some fuse had to basically interrupt its functioning, and that fuse was my eye. And my retina just unhooked from the back of my eye. It was too much tension, but I couldn't control it anymore. There was a part of me who really wanted to get to a certain point, and that was linked to professional experience and affluence, etc. And it was too much. And really physically, I felt I cannot stop the machine. It was going so fast in me. And that calmed me down, that's for sure. So it brought me to a point well, first of all, I reflected a lot if I should be operated and not operated, etc. And then finally I chose the operation. They wanted to operate also the cataract. The operation went wrong, but it probably is all for a reason. I went then to see a doctor who said, you're going to lose completely the eye, we have to take it out. And I said, no way. And then I went to see another doctor who said, oh, you shouldn't be operated, but now that it's like that, we probably have to take out the eye. And I said, no. And I said, no, I'm not going to go to see the doctors anymore to get that information. I want my eye to live. I don't know if I'm going to see, but I want my eye to live. So I took the decision for myself to take care of my health exactly how I feel it, and not hoping that some doctor will do something about it. So that was a big game changer. And then the question was, and that's why I reflected on ayahuasca about 2 years ago, because there I nevertheless felt that it brought me in a state of depression, because my self-image was so hurt by the fact that I lost my eyesight. And it took me really the experience of taking the leap of faith to try ayahuasca, and that experience was really, and I'm not pleading for it, but for me, it was like putting the fingers back in the plug. I reconnected to my life energy, to things that sense anymore. I was not trying to find sense, it was there. And so the whole experience really brought me, into myself, into my responsibility also for my health, for my body, for my mental health. So yeah, it was a game changer.
So we could say generally that challenges brings us new things in our life and teaches us more than success itself.
Yes. Yes, we could say that.
And if you would be in this moment,
Yes.
to describe yourself, what would you say? Who are you?
Who am I? When I don't get lost into the usual games of life where I forget who I am, I would say I'm a bright, shining light, playful, joyful, and really wanting to play with my friends.
Michel, at this moment in your life,
Yes.
what is the one message that the world needs to hear from you?
Time is short. Use it well. Love yourself. Love the people around you. Follow your dreams. Be brave to try out stuff. Don't listen to all the time to your mind. Love your uniqueness. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presence and for your wisdom, and for being such a joyful person that brings not only optimism but a new fresh energy to myself, to people around, and to Awareness Club itself.
Thank you, Bogdan. Thank you very much for your work, for your presence.
As for the rest of you, I hope you liked today's episode. And if so, share this with a friend that would benefit the information from. Let's continue even the conversation in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, all this social stuff. And don't forget, take care of yourself.